The story begins between 2018 and 2020, when a series of terrible murders took place, all connected to a serial killer from the United States. This killer became known as one of the most unusual in the 21st century, spreading fear across different states. Each murder had a pattern, making it very difficult for law enforcement to stop the killer. The killer's actions began in Denver, Colorado, a large city that became the starting point of these frightening events. After finishing there, the killer moved to other places, including Grand Lake, a quiet, remote area that never expected to face such brutal crimes. But the killings didn't end there. The murder spread to parts of Wyoming and central Idaho, showing how the killer moved from place to place quickly. This made it challenging for the police to track the killer's location and stop them before another victim was harmed. The peak of this horror happened in a dense forest in Oregon. This forest witnessed the full extent of the killer's violence, who is still remembered as one of the most mysterious and dangerous serial killers in the United States. Through several police interviews with different people involved, the events became clearer. Detailed statements from eyewitnesses at the crime scenes helped investigators put together clues to understand what happened. Observations by some law enforcement officers also helped reveal the killer's methods. This terrifying story was later retold in a dramatized form, showing the final known death from this series of murders. The dramatization not only provided a clearer picture of the tragic experiences of the victims, but also captured the terrifying actions of the killer that still linger in the memories of many. In this scene, we see a woman named Lady, wearing a uniform, running as fast as she can. She's panicking and clearly terrified, trying to escape someone who seems very dangerous. The only place she finds to hide is a dark, lonely forest. This is her last chance to stay safe. A few moments before she reaches the forest, we learn how she ended up in this scary situation. Since leaving the city, Lady has been chased by a man named John, who has been following her nonstop. Driving a suspicious-looking black car, John shows every sign of being dangerous. John is not only chasing her, but is also unstable due to drugs he's taken. He's armed, which only adds to Lady's fear as she tries to escape. During the chase, John suddenly stops his car and aims a gun at Lady's car from a distance, creating a very real threat. Feeling the pressure and fear, Lady loses control of her car. It flips over, crashing badly, just as John seems ready to ram into her. In this urgent moment, Lady has to act fast to survive. Using all her remaining strength, she crawls out of the wrecked car and runs into the forest nearby. This forest is her only hope to get away. But the danger isn't over yet. John, determined not to let her escape, follows her into the forest, even though it's a difficult place to navigate. The tension rises as Lady fights to survive, running through the woods with John close behind, showing no signs of giving up. Once in the forest, Lady, still scared, accidentally finds a small shelter. It looks like an old abandoned building. Inside, there are some bottles lying around, dusty and forgotten. Lady quickly grabs one that still has water in it, realizing she needs a drink to calm down and get some energy back. After taking a few sips, she sits down and hides behind a large tree nearby. While resting, she pulls off a bandage from her ear, not fully sure how it got hurt. The wound seems deep, but she doesn't have time to take care of it properly right now. Despite the fear and tension, Lady's old habits kick in. Even in this dangerous moment, she finds a cigarette in her pocket and lights it up, hoping it will calm her nerves a bit. Meanwhile, not too far away, John is still searching for her, determined to find her. The large, dark forest makes his search harder, giving Lady a little time to rest, though she knows she can't stay hidden forever. After thinking about her situation, Lady decides to leave her hiding spot and move toward a safer area. She carefully slips out of the forest and reaches a barbed wire fence marking the forest's edge. On the other side of the fence is a simple but sturdy-looking house, probably owned by someone living nearby. She crosses over, entering the yard of what seems to be a quiet home. To her relief, she realizes this house belongs to an elderly couple who live in this remote part of the forest, away from the main towns. Without hesitation, she steps inside, hoping for a safe place or maybe even some help to escape John. For a while, it's unclear what happens inside the house, but about 2 hours later, John finally arrives, following Lady's trail all the way to the house. Determined to find Lady, John enters the house and begins searching every corner. The quiet, dimly lit house makes the search even more intense. Growing impatient, John becomes frustrated as he realizes Lady is still nowhere to be found, despite checking almost every room. He mutters angrily, feeling that all his efforts to chase her might be wasted if he can't catch her in the end. Then, while searching the kitchen, John suddenly stumbles upon a terrifying sight. To his shock, he finds an old man, the likely owner of the house, lying lifeless on the kitchen floor, covered in blood. The sight is gruesome, with blood staining the floor around him. John freezes for a moment, unsure of what happened or how the man met such a horrible fate in his own home. Confused, John steps outside for a moment to clear his head. Standing outside, he lights a cigarette, trying to calm himself down and figure out what might have happened. In the silence, John suddenly remembers a place he hadn't checked yet. The freezer in the corner of the house, a spot not usually used for hiding. Without hesitation, he goes back inside, heading straight for the freezer. Without checking or thinking twice, he raises his gun and points it at the freezer. In an instant, he pulls the trigger, firing a shot that pierces the freezer door. The bullet hits Lady, who had been hiding in the cold, cramped space. The next scene takes us back to a time before Lady arrived at the elderly couple's house. The house was calm and peaceful, with the elderly couple enjoying their morning routine. They were sitting at the dining table, having breakfast, and working on a puzzle, which a daily activity they enjoyed together in their quiet life away from the busy world. But this peace was suddenly broken by a loud, urgent knock on the door. The knock came from Lady, who looked exhausted and in rough shape. Hearing the knock, the elderly couple stopped what they were doing and went to see who was there. Lady begged them to let her in and give her shelter. Although they didn't know Lady, the kind-hearted couple didn't hesitate. They warmly welcomed her inside, curious about what had happened to her. Noticing Lady's injured ear, the old woman quickly grabbed a bandage and carefully wrapped it, trying to help. While they were caring for her, the couple gently tried to ask Lady what had brought her to their door in such a terrible state. But instead of answering, Lady winced in pain and asked them for painkillers. Feeling sympathetic, the old woman went to another room to find some medicine. Meanwhile, the old man softly asked Lady again about what had happened. Lady, however, avoided answering and even seemed upset when he mentioned calling the police for help. When the old man reached for the phone, Lady, with a pleading tone and a worried face, begged him not to call the authorities. She seemed very uncomfortable with the idea, saying that things would only get worse if the police got involved. With her anxious expression, Lady convinced him to hold off on his plan. Shortly after, the old woman found the painkillers Lady had asked for in a cupboard and hurried back to the kitchen, hoping to ease their guests' pain. But when she entered, she was met with a horrifying sight. Her husband, who had been sitting quietly at the table just moments ago, was now lying on the floor, covered in blood. The old woman froze, staring in shock, unable to believe what she was seeing. Her heart pounded, and her body felt weak, but fear and the will to survive kept her on her feet. At that moment, Lady revealed a side no one expected. She approached the old woman with a threatening look and a cold tone that sent chills down her spine. Lady warned her not to do anything that would cause trouble and ordered her to leave the kitchen. Overwhelmed with fear, the old woman followed Lady's instructions, feeling helpless and confused. Lady led her out of the kitchen, intending to lock her in the storage room to prevent her from calling for help or resisting. However, the old woman spotted a chance to escape. When Lady looked away for a brief moment, the old woman seized the opportunity and dashed out of the house. She ran as fast as she could, desperate to get far away, and just as she made it outside, she saw John approaching from a distance. Filled with fear, the old woman quickly moved to find a safe place to hide. Realizing the situation was getting more dangerous with John approaching, Lady quickly went back inside the house. She thought fast, looking for the best hiding spot where John wouldn't find her, as he might search every corner. After a moment, Lady decided to hide in the freezer in the kitchen. She climbed in quickly, hoping this unusual hiding spot would keep her safe from whatever might happen next. The scene shifts to when John fires at the freezer, causing Lady to lose consciousness. John then takes handcuffs and tries to secure them to the freezer. It's unclear who is good or bad here, but John calls the police to report what happened in the house. When he returns to the kitchen, Lady has regained consciousness, looking calm and showing no sign of fear. At this point, we flash back to the night when John and Lady first met. They connected through a dating app and agreed to meet at a hotel. That night, Lady showed John a type of illegal drug she had brought with her. It's uncertain whether she was motivated by money or thrill, but they used the drug together and began dancing. Suddenly, without warning, Lady pulled away from John, as if wanting to leave, which left him confused. Feeling disrespected, John became upset and decided to walk away. Lady quickly went to the bathroom and took out a stun gun she always carried. Lady dragged John back into the room and revealed a darker side, carving her initials into John's chest with a knife. As she tried to harm him further, John, still weak from the stun gun, managed to shoot Lady's left ear. Hurt and without clothes, Lady pretended to be the victim, escaping by jumping out of the motel room and asking two staff members to lock the door from the inside. Without hesitation, Lady killed the motel manager and threatened a staff member to give her a uniform. Now, the mystery of Lady's uniform and her injured ear is finally explained. The hired killer turns out to be Lady, who is clever and manipulative. Lady plans to make it look like John is the suspect in the old man's murder. While John is distracted, Lady sprays bug poison and seizes the moment to bite John's neck, killing him. Hearing police cars approaching, Lady quickly grabs John's gun and lowers her pants to make it seem like she was attacked. When two officers arrive, they believe John was responsible for everything. After checking the scene, Jason, one of the officers, notices the bite marks on John's neck, feeling suspicious. Although his female partner sympathizes with Lady, they both decide to take her to the police station for further questioning. Just as they start to drive away, the old woman who had escaped appears on the road, asking for help. Soon after, Lady quickly shoots the old woman and threatens the officers. Because the female officer had sided with her earlier, Lady lets her go and orders Jason to keep driving to her chosen destination. A bit farther from the scene, Lady instructs Jason to stop. Her eyes look empty, like someone with no emotion. She then shoots Jason, steps out of the car, and walks to the main road, pretending to need help to make a passing driver feel sorry for her. But this time, Lady chooses the wrong person to mess with, as the driver is a tough cowgirl carrying her own pistol. When Lady tries to grab the gun, the cowgirl quickly points her own weapon at Lady first. The cowgirl decides to take Lady to the police station. However, on the way there, Lady dies from blood loss. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is if someone's chasing you through a forest, don't hide in a freezer cause cold storage is for food, not fugitives. Also, beware of old houses with free water cause that hospitality might just freeze your chances of escaping.